In this Masterpiece in Taste episode, I'll be showing you how to create this ruby roll cake, and it's got a chocolate sponge, a coffee diplomat cream, and a raspberry jam. And I'll be pairing that with a L'OR Espresso Ultimo blend for its smooth and dark roasted coffee flavor. So to make it, the first thing we're going to do is whip up our egg yolks. And that's going to go with our first part of the sugar. Now once our egg yolks are nice and fluffy and pale, we're gonna add in our flour and our cocoa powder. Back to the mixer. Now we don't want to lose too much of the air, so we're just gonna gently work the dry ingredients in. The next step, here I've got a meringue that goes with the second part of our sugar. I'm just gonna fold it all in. The egg yolk and the flour is kind of stiffed up a little bit. We're gonna loosen it up before we add in the rest of our egg whites. You can see the volume of this cake batter is increasing as we add in the meringue. And we're not losing too much air as well, which is a good thing. Now this is a lot. You can halve the recipe, but this creates one full tray for me, which is 30 by 40, and that creates 2 rolls of the Swiss roll. So now that we've got our cake mix, we're gonna pour it in to our tray. And we're just gonna spread that evenly. This is gonna go into the oven at 170 degrees for 8 minutes. So while our chocolate sponge is in the oven, we're gonna work on our diplomat cream, and that diplomat cream is a base of creme pat. We're gonna flavor that with the L'OR Espresso Ultimo. So we've got some milk, egg yolks, corn flour, and sugar. And here is gelatin, titanium grade. You don't have to use it, but this helps it stabilize, and some white chocolate. So I'm gonna use 2 shots of the L'OR Espresso Ultimo. So while that's brewing away, I'm going to heat up my milk and whisk my egg yolks with sugar. The Ultimo Espresso is going to go with the milk. And all we wanted to do is bring that to a simmer. So we're just going to whisk the egg yolks until pale, not fluffy, just like so. And now in with our corn flour. So now that our milk has come to temperature, we're going to slowly whisk this in. And this is tempering the eggs. Make sure you scrape all the edges, getting everything. Now back into the pot it goes. And from here we're going to cook it over medium-high heat until the mixture really thickens. Make sure you whisk constantly, scraping the edges, getting the bottom, because when it thickens up, it really thickens up. Now all we're going to do is just add in our gelatin that has been softened in cold water and our white chocolate. And you want to keep whisking this until all the chocolate and gelatin dissolves. And then we're going to put it into a container and let that set in the fridge until it completely cools down before we add in our whipped cream. So the L'OR Espresso Ultimo is a deep roast and has a deeply sweet and fruity flavor. So I'm going to be pairing that with some raspberries. And so in this raspberry, I've got some sugar and vanilla. And here is some water and some NH pectin, which is what makes jam. I'm gonna add this in. And I'm gonna let the natural liquid of that raspberry come out and start to cook itself down in its own syrup. Once our raspberry jam has thickened up and cooled down, we're gonna start assembling our ruby roll cake. Now I'm gonna add in some whipped cream into this. So now we've got the whipped cream in. Gonna let this go back in the fridge and firm up. I'm gonna have everything ready to assemble the ruby roll cake. All right, now, so we've got our gorgeous sponge cake right here. So what I'm gonna do is just slice this down in half. I'm gonna slice the baking paper as well. So you can see that is crazy moist. And now to put on our filling. So here we've got the L'OR Espresso Ultimo diplomat cream. And spread that all throughout the cake. As I'm spreading, I can hear little pops of the bubble of that cake. It shows how moist and spongy it is. You don't want to add too much cream, otherwise it's going to be really hard to roll. And then on top goes our raspberry jam, bright red to complement the Ultimo. It's going to be a very thin layer. And now for the tricky part, we're going to roll this up. I'm going to work with the baking paper. Now I've got this transferred onto some cling film. I want to keep rolling this to wrap it up like a big sausage and keeping it as neat as possible. Tucking it in as we go all the way. And this keeps it packed. And that sponge is gonna soak up any liquid. Gonna pinch the edges and just do a quick roll. Just like so. And this needs to be chilled in the fridge for at least 2 hours, or you can store in the freezer as well. You can see the layers from the middle, the sponge cake, the raspberry jam, and the espresso diplomat cream. And it looks absolutely stunning.